Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. These interviewed are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to past, present, and future legends, as well as business owners, employees, media, and land use warriors. Men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle we call off-road. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world that we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive-focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, I'll be interviewing Logan Backus, a current We Rock rock-crawling competitor in the ProTrail class. Logan Backus, it's really good to have you on the interview. So let's find out how you're doing.
Yeah, glad to be here. Been kind of excited to do this for a little while now. I've been listening to the podcast for actually, last couple weeks, quite a bit actually. So.
Oh, good. So, what was the last podcast that you listened to of the podcasts that you've recently listened to? Which one did you like best?
Honestly, I went back and listened to Jesse's when you were talking to him. So I had to drive to Salt Lake last Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, perfect timing. Let's just throw the podcast on and listen to it.
Right.
And I listened to Jesse's, and then I listened to Woody's, and, just kind of skipped all around, just kind of hit shuffle on it.
Perfect.
But I think the very, very last one I listened to was Woody's, actually.
Okay.
So
excellent. I'm going to suggest that you listen to even people that you don't know who they are. One of the very interesting ones I just did was Cal Wells, who was, the guy's been in off-road racing, NASCAR, Indy, F1, back to NASCAR, but he's in the Off-Road Motorsports Hall of Fame. And he's only 2 years older than I am. And wow. I'm like, when I interviewed him after we got done, I was like, man, I have really wasted my life.
It's a good thing I'm still young and still have a long ways to go.
There you go. So let's start off with the first basic, easiest question typically, and that's where were you born and raised?
So born in Orem, Utah, so pretty much dead center of Utah. Not anywhere where I would expect to, be rock crawling around or anything.
Right.
So, as a kid, pretty much my parents' house was like 10 minutes from Utah Lake.
Okay.
You could see it off the back porch. So pretty much I lived there my entire life. Didn't really move very far from there until I got to here, which, we'll get to that later on.
Right.
But, just living there, we kind of lived in the way to say of central Mormon area, in a way to call it. And I was pretty much, our family we didn't go to church or anything like that. Okay. We went to the sand dunes every single weekend. That's my childhood we went to Little Sahara.
Right.
Or, weren't really big into water sports at all, but, I always used to go to Utah Lake and go fishing a lot, catfishing and stuff like that. I had a lot of fun doing that.
But you guys were outdoorsy.
Yeah, pretty much all we did was outdoorsy stuff, but no rock crawling yet. Just pretty much sand dunes. So sand rails, 4-wheelers, pedal bikes. I would come home from school and just, finished my homework or told my mom I finished my homework and would just jump on my pedal bike. And, we would build jumps. Like, we were known for the kids in the neighborhood to build the biggest, baddest jumps out there. Like, because my parents' house was like, it was literally, we were at the end of the street and it was field, like just fields and fields for days. So that's all we did was, pedal bikes and big jumps. If you got hurt, you got hurt, and you just jumped back up and you went for it again.
Right.
That's the lifestyle of being young. But, I was the youngest of 4 in our family.
Okay.
So, 2 older brothers above me and then my older sister. And it was like, hey, you're the youngest. You should do this. Like,
Oh, yeah, you were the guinea pig.
Yeah, you should go do this. Like, why don't we, let you go off the jump first? We just built it. None of us has hit it yet, but how about you go for the jump? Okay, like, I'm the young dumb one. Like, why not? Let's go for it. No broken bones. So that was the good part about it.
Right.
So, but I think that kind of escalated in my daringness of growing older and getting on a 4-wheeler and stuff. And my dad's rule was always, if you can start it, you can ride it.
Oh, nice.
Which, when, you're 6, 7 years old and you can start the fastest bike that's there, it kind of turned into, okay, hold on a minute. I guess you should have someone that rides with you. Like, you probably shouldn't be the one that just gets on it and goes. So, I mean, pretty much that's all I remember my entire life of being a kid was every single weekend, if not every other weekend, was, Little Sahara sand dunes.
Right.
And riding 4-wheelers. And it was just, if you pretty much, all the sand cars would go out there. And, you got me, my brother, and a couple of our friends back then at that time, if you couldn't keep up with the sandrails that were out there doing the dunes, you probably just shouldn't have rode with us at all. And I remember one time, I think we were up in Idaho is where it was, is we were about to go for a ride, and I can't remember who it was, but one of the groups was like, are they like asking my dad, are you sure that, they can keep up with us? Like, we're going out here in the sand cars, we're not going to be going slow. And my dad's like, oh yeah, they're fine. They'll be fine. They've been riding since, 4 years old, like really young. And we got all the way out to the end dune called Devil's Dune. And the guy was like, yeah, I guess I'll never ask that question again.
Right.
Because the whole time we were right on their butts. Like, we'd get bored because we'd pretty much catch up to them so like easily that we were playing like NASCAR, like 3 bikes wide, going through the bowls. And you know how it is, like if one guy screws up, like
everybody's
all the
down.
other ones have to, yeah, everyone's got to react quickly. So, I would say we got pretty good at riding and everything else. Like, to the point where it scared the crap out of my dad every time we would go riding, because he would be like, all right, enough's enough. Like, I don't want to watch you die. Like, just stop.
Yeah, who's going to come back with a broken collarbone or a broken neck or something?
Something like that. Yeah. So same. This is when I was older. I was probably 16, 17 at this time now. And we're out at Idaho sand dunes again.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ever look up the hill called Choke Cherry out there, a really steep, long hill, and I love doing wheelies. That's pretty much what I was known for, doing wheelies. Like, I would wheelie everywhere on my 4-wheeler. And one time I was like, I wonder how cool it would be to wheelie from the very top of this all the way to the bottom. And my dad's like, don't do it. Don't do it. And I'm like, I'm sitting there and, nobody's paying attention. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to go get on my bike and kind of mosey over here for a minute. And, I was like, all right, he's not paying attention. From the very top all the way to the bottom, through the whoops, I held the wheelie all the way down it.
Nice.
I turn around, come back up, and I stop, and he walks over and turns the bike off, and he's like, "You're done. No more." And I'm like, "What?" Like, it's fine. Like, and he's like, "No more. You're not doing that again." Like, okay, all right. I guess that was it for the weekend. I guess I won't do that again. But oops.
Right. So what was school like? Did you enjoy school, or were you one of those that just looked out the window hoping that the day would get over so you could get outside?
I absolutely hated school. I would go to school every day, and I wanted to go home. I wanted to go play outside. I wanted to be like nothing to do with school. Like, I got good grades and I passed school. Like, I didn't fail anything. Especially into my like junior high school when you start meeting all the friends, and they have just a little bit older than you, and they all have cars, and you're like, man, I don't really want to be here anymore. So, not really skip school, but right at the end of school, they pick you up and, you go out and just hang out with all your buddies outside and do stuff. Like high school got to the point where I graduated early because I was like, all right, I'm going to take all the classes that I need to because I don't want to be in school anymore. Like I hated doing tests. I mean, all of that. So I pretty much took a ton of like auto shop and welding shop, a ton.
Right.
And pretty much my last like senior year was I had one class that I had to take in order to graduate halfway through the year early. And the rest of it was just like, they're like, well, what do you want to do? Like, I was like, well, just fill the rest of the schedule up with auto shop and welding. And they're like, are you sure? Like you just want to do, that's all you want to do? And I'm like, yeah, like, what else am I going to do for the rest of the day? And then I pretty much got a job and just kind of quit going to school because I was like, I'm already graduated. I don't really need to go to school anymore. I might as well just start working. Like, if I want anything cool in life, I got to make money somewhere.
Right.
So I was like, all right, let's just work,
And what'd you do for work?
When I first started, I did landscaping for a little bit.
Okay.
Decided I hated, using a shovel. I didn't want to use a shovel. I did work part-time with my dad every Saturday. He owns a mechanic shop up there. And I hated going there on Saturdays because it was like, all right, we work from 8 to 2. And you're like, man, that's like the whole Saturday. Like, what are you going to do the rest of the day? I was like, I'd never want to work a Saturday in my life. So I decided to try and do heating and air conditioning, like big commercial stuff. And I did part of UVU, the new half of over where it's over by the baseball field, I think is where it is.
Okay.
Part of the university right there. Because it was like right next to my parents' house. And I got convinced to like, hey, yeah, you should, come do heating and air. It's like really cool and you make a ton of money and you only work like 4 days of the week. And I was like, oh, heck yeah. Like, let's do it. Yeah, I think that lasted for like a month. And I decided that wasn't for me anymore. I was like, no, I'm done. So it kind of made my dad mad, but I took a job working at Big O Tires in University Mall. Because, mechanic shop, you feel it's like, competitor. Yeah. He owns a shop in Springville, and then I'm working for Big O now and, Forum University Mall. And he's like, I wish you wouldn't work there. And I'm like, man, I'm doing tires. Like, come on. Like, it's not like I'm working on cars or doing other stuff and all that. But pretty much what the deal was is I had bought, I guess before I worked at Big O, I was working actually pumping gas. You ever remember back in the day where like you pull up and the olden days and you have somebody that comes out and just starts pumping the gas for you and everything?
Oh yeah, full service. You check the oil,
Yeah.
you do wash the windshield. Yep.
Yeah, I worked for a place, I think for 4 years actually doing that. I was pumping gas and, propane and, that was like my full-time job, and that's how I kind of bought my first Jeep. And then I bought, the owner of the gas station had a truck that he was selling, and I really, really wanted it. My dad's like, I don't know why you want a truck like that. I'm like, to tow my Jeep around, you know, like why do you want to own a Duramax, and they're expensive and they break? And I'm like, well, yeah, like I'm a young kid, of course stuff's gonna break, but you know, I really, really wanted it. And I finally kind of, I wouldn't say my mom co-signed on it with me, but I finally was able to get the loan, I think by myself, because I had saved up enough money and everything to do it. And I bought the truck, and that was about the time that I said I think I did HVAC for a little bit.
Okay.
And I hated that job when I quit, and I started working at Big O. But my dad told me, you know, I'm not making the payment on that truck. If I make the payment on it, I'm selling it because I already own a truck. And I was like, deal. Like, you ain't got to tell me twice. So I made sure that every month, no matter what I did, I had enough money to make that truck payment to prove a point that I can do this. Like, you know, because being the youngest out of four, you know, of course, the older siblings and all that stuff, I kind of felt like I got the easy end of it, but I also got the hard end of it because, you know, the disciplining of the top three kids. And then it got to the point where it was like, well, you're the only one in the household now. And all right, like, we don't care. Just don't get in trouble. You know, come home every night and, you know, work and don't go to jail and it'll be fine. Okay. Yeah, no problem. But, you know, so that's it. Kind of, I guess that's where I kind of really, you know, for my dad being a mechanic for his entire life, you know, that's kind of what I was learned. And so when I started working at Big O and doing tires and everything else, and then moved up to the oil change guy, which once again, I hated doing. Like, oil change is probably the worst thing in my life that I hate doing them.
Right.
And that's what I did every single day, 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. And especially, you know, working there right next to it was the mall at that point. People would just drop their car off and be like, yeah, I'm going shopping for an hour and I'll be back to pick my car up for an oil change. So it was like one after another of oil changes. And it got to the point where I was like, I really hate doing this. Like, I don't know why I decided this was a good thing to do. And about that time, I thought that it was cool to turn my truck up, like really make a lot of power out of it. Because, you know, that age of 17 years old of not really caring anymore, you know, you just want to go fast.
Right.
So I blew the truck up. We came down here for winter 4x4, I think is what it was.
And come down here, you mean Southern Utah, St. George, Hurricane?
Southern Utah, where I'm living now, you know. And I thought that it was a good idea to just leave it on the biggest tune and just like not lift out of it. And I blew the head gaskets in it. And it was like, wow, that was the dumbest idea I've ever had. Because that was like my main vehicle that I drove to get back and forth to work. And it was like, oh, you know, I kind of shouldn't have done that. So at that point I had to fix it myself, because a young kid with not much money at that point, you know, so I had to take another loan out against the truck to pay for half the parts on it to fix it. And so I borrowed my dad's truck, he has like an old 91 or 93 Chevy pickup truck that I was driving while I fixed mine. And he's like, this is what I told you. You and your kid, like, don't hot rod it. Now look what you did. You hot rodded it. Now you blew it up. And I'm like,
don't you hate that?
Yeah. Yeah. Which is funny is, you know, this whole time of life, like young kid to, you know, don't hot rod it. You're going to blow it up. And, you know, of course I've blown that truck up 6 times now. I still own it. So I've owned that truck 17 or 18 years old. I still own that truck, and I'm 32 years old now. And I won't ever get rid of that truck. But so I pretty much fix the truck myself. And at that point, I decided I really wanted to work on diesel pickup trucks. So I went and found a job that's what they did, is diesel stuff. So I started working there, and it kind of stuck. And that's pretty much what I do for a living now, owning my own business in, Liverkin, Utah, working on those trucks.
Nice. So when you were a kid and in school, did you? It didn't sound like you probably participated in sports or any other school activities, or did you?
No, I hated sports.
Okay.
I didn't want to. No baseball. Like, I mean, during elementary school, I used to play soccer at lunchtime because that was about all you could really do is play soccer or swing on the swings. And so I played soccer because at least it get some exercise running around.
Right.
But like, I didn't really want to do anything sports wise because after school I didn't want to like practice or stuff like that, and I wanted to go ride my bike when I got out of school. So there wasn't really a point to do any activities like that.
Right. How about like school dances or anything? Did you or did you just blow all those off as well?
I went to one in my entire like junior high, high school. I went to one, and that was it. And it was actually not even my school. I didn't even go to the dance for my school. When I was working at the gas station, one of the older gals that I was working with, her daughter was the same age as me. And she was like, "Hey, will you take my daughter to the school dance? She thinks you're cute and she wants to go." And, I was like, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" Like, I don't really care. So I took her to the school dance, and then I was like, "Yeah, this isn't my thing. Like, I don't really like this sort of stuff." So I think we were at the dance for like 45 minutes or something like that. And then I took her back home, and I was like, "Yeah, here you go." Like, we danced for a minute, and that was it. And got pictures, and that was about it. And I don't think we talked after that either.
Probably crushed the poor girl.
Yeah, it's. I warned the mom, and I said I don't do school dances. Like, I don't. I just don't see the point of it. Like, don't like it. So I would say that was the last time I got asked to do that, and about the last one I ever went to. It's
Okay.
not worth it.
So you said that you're working on trucks. Was it a truck shop, or was it big trucks, or just
No, it's
pickups?
light duty pickup trucks.
Okay.
Like, your everyday Chevys and Fords and Dodges and normal cars. Like, we did normal cars and stuff too. Like, a lot of the work that I did there was removing and installing transmissions and motors and diagnosing like drivability issues and stuff like that. And it was at that time, how I kind of found the job is I rented a house from an old friend that used to live in my parents' neighborhood, and he owned the shop. And I was like, paying him rent one day, and I was like, "Hey, you guys hiring?" And he's like, "Actually, we are." And so I was like, "Okay." And so I went over there and interviewed, and he's like, "Do you know how to work on diesel trucks and stuff like that?" And I straight up answered, "No, I don't. I just work on my own stuff. I've been working for Big O for 4 years now, I think is what it was." But I was like, this is all I do there, but I work on my own truck, and this is what I've done to it. And back then I built the whole entire motor. And then I want to say I sat on Google for like a week trying to figure out how to do like a compound turbo setup on it. And I think I Googled and searched for like a week of how to do it, and what do you do, and what pipe goes where, and how do you get oil to this and that. And so my brother does auto body work on the side because he does auto body. And so he had like a little shop kind of in Pleasant Grove where I had built the motor the first time. And so I took it there, and in like a month, I built the whole piping kit and turbo setup to compound turbo it. And I pretty much told them that, and they were like, okay, like, I think I was 21, 22 at that time. 21. And they're like, okay, I guess he kind of knows what he's doing, you know? And when I first started there, I felt like I was like the dumbest kid on the block. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. Why did I decide to change professions? Like, I should have stuck with doing oil changes. It's like the first week there, I definitely felt like I shouldn't have done this. Like, this was the dumbest thing I've ever decided to do. But I feel like anyone that changes job professions, like that's how they feel for the first little while. Because the owner there really taught me a lot. Like, he helped me out. Like, he pretty much kind of took me under his wing and said, you know, I'm going to show you how to like learn the ins and outs of all this stuff. Because both of them worked for the Chevy dealership and then left and started that place. And they were young too. I want to say when I was in my 20s, they were mid 30s when they owned it. So I mean, back then, you know, everyone was young, still working on it. But they taught me a lot, and I'm super glad about it because that's kind of what helped me out buying my business and owning the business that I own now down here in southern Utah. You know, plus with my dad and everything, always making sure I had something to work on because, you know, sand cars, four-wheelers, and I'm dumb enough to just blow everything up that I own, and I can't leave anything stock, like anything stock.
Right.
It's always have to change something and always have to make something faster. And, you know, my first wife, that drove her crazy because I always like, we should do this to something. And she's like, we don't have money for that. And I'm like, we'll figure it out. It's fine. You know?
So you mentioned the Jeep that you bought your first Jeep. How did what made you decide to go with a Jeep?
So, do you know Bart Jacobs?
Yes.
Was it U-Rock back in the day when he competed?
Yep.
So his son, I went to high school with him.
Okay.
And I worked with him also when we worked at the gas station pumping gas. And so, you know, everyone's hanging out, and he's like, hey, man, you should come out, and we're going to go wheeling out at 5 Mile and do rattlesnake. And I was like, I don't even know what this thing is that you're calling wheeling. Like, I'm like thinking we're going to go through some mud puddles or like dirt roads, like that sort of stuff. And I was like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, but like, this sounds like a good time to me because growing up doing sand dunes and stuff was like, why not? The first time we went out there and we went and did rattlesnake and nightcat, he showed me what rock crawling was. I was hooked. I was like, wow. And so he's like, hey, do you want to buy the Jeep from me? I'm going to sell it, because he was going to college and, you know, at that age, you know, driving a Jeep with 33s on it and lifted and working a gas station job that barely paid the bills for gas anyways.
Right.
And so I was like, heck yeah, I'll buy it from you. And so that was the very first Jeep that I had ever bought, was a 99 Jeep Cherokee, lifted 33s with just the Dana 44 in the rear with a locker and a stock Dana 30 up front. And short arm kit, everything. Like, that was it. 4.5-inch lift. And I thought that it was the coolest thing ever. I thought
you were styling.
You can take this thing anywhere. This is the best rock crawler in the world. Like, we're going everywhere with this thing. And I got myself into trouble. You know, I think I blew the front end up in that thing like 20 times. Like, I'm like drive shafts, axle shafts. You know, I just kept my foot in it. I didn't care. We were going somewhere. Like, you know, and we shoved that thing into some mud puddles that was like, wow, I don't think we should have drove through that. Like, I think I had to do 2 or 3 radiators in it, a couple alternators. Like, it was bad. And my dad's like, it's why you don't go off roading and stuff. You should. They're not meant to do that. You shouldn't do that. Like, no, it's fine.
Oh, that's exactly what they're meant to do.
Yeah. So I started building that thing because I wanted to do more stuff in it. I think so. I went to Moab. I just had graduated, so 2010 when I graduated, and me and a kid in my neighborhood, his dad used to take him to Moab all the time, and he's like, "Dude, you should come. Like, you should come." I'm like, "I don't know. I've never been there. Like, I've never been there." He's like, "Dude, we'll just put it in behind my truck." You know, from where we lived in Orem to Moab was only 3 hours, 3.5 hours, I think.
Right.
And so we woke up Saturday morning at 5 a.m., drove to Moab, and then we pull in. I'm like, this is the coolest freaking town I've ever seen in my life. Like, back then, how small it was, because it was 2010, 2011. Yeah, right there, 2011. Like, small town, hasn't really expanded quite yet. And we roll up, and back then I was dating a girl where her family went to Moab a lot. And they're like, "Hey, meet us here." So we met them at one of the hotels in the middle of town. They're like, "All right, we're going to go do Behind the Rocks." And I was like, awesome. Sounds good to me. Like, I didn't do any researching before we went there at all. Like, at all. And we go to do Behind the Rocks, and, you know, I'm in a Cherokee with 33s and one locker and open front diff. And the first obstacle we pull up to, we were behind a group, and it's that really steep wall.
Right.
That
the gatekeeper wall. Yep.
Yeah, you either have to go far right and get really sketchy, kind of to get a smoother route up it, or the big undercut to get up it. And we watch a guy roll off of it, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, what did I just get myself into? Like, why are we here? Because back home we wheeled Rattlesnake, American Fork Canyon, you know, all that stuff out there is like boulders, like rock.
Right, boulders, more flat, yeah.
Yeah, you don't really have like big steep obstacles that you're trying to like go up and off cambered or anything. And I literally was like, what are we doing? Like, why are we out here? And so, you know, I kind of got nervous when we were pulling up to it. So I decided, okay, well, I'm not going to do the big wall because, you know, it's a Jeep and the back bumper is just going to dig into the ground and just hang up. So we went to the right, and I just went really, really slow and got all out of the top. And I was like, okay, my confidence is a little bit higher now. We drove the entire trail, and we got all the way to the end, which I don't think we did it the right way. And I still am not convinced that we did the actual trail unless I'm wrong. But do you go all the way out? Is it Wipeout, the very end where you have that steep downhill?
It's
you're out in the middle.
No, it's not Wipeout. It's White Knuckle.
White Knuckle, yeah. You're out in the middle of nowhere at that point.
Right.
And I'm like trusting that they know where they're going at that point, because they talked like they had been out here millions and millions of times. And so we get all the way to there, and then I'm like, you're telling me we have to drive down that? Like down White Knuckle? And they're like, yeah, that's how you get out of here. And I'm like, no way. Oh man, like I was scared. So we had like a strap on the back, and you watch all the videos of like the dumbest ways to die, like don't do that. There's like 6 guys on the back of the strap to like drive the Jeep down this hill, because I'm like, I'm not doing this. Nope, not doing this. Like, I don't know why I decided rock crawling was the coolest thing in the world to do. But yeah, we drive down that, and then they're like, all right, I think you go left to get out of here. And I was like, did you just say you think? They're like, yeah, it's been a really, 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 really long time since we've been out here. And I was like, and at this point, I think it was like 8 o'clock at night. And I was like, we've been on this trail all day long, and you have no idea where we're getting out of this place. And you just follow the dirt road, and we ended up getting out, and we drove back home that night. I think we got back home at like 1 or 2 in the morning. And I was like, after that, I was like, all right, Moab was actually really cool. Like, I really want to go back. So I decided to build the Jeep more because, you know, a 44 in the rear and a 30 in the front was like, I'm going to break that like every time I go out.
Right.
So I got on KSL on Marketplace, like just going through, and I found a Jeep that somebody was parting out or selling whole that was just absolutely just demolished. But it had a Dana 44 Ford front axle and then a Dana 60 in the rear. And I was like, that's what I want. I'm going to take those axles, I'm going to put them underneath my Jeep, and I already got tires and wheels for it that already come with it. Done. Like, I'm set. No problem at all. So we pull it in my cousin's garage and try and do the axle swap in one weekend, thinking like, this is going to like quick and easy bolt up. I bought the Barnes 4-wheel drive coil bucket brackets for the front to weld on. Like, we're just going to cut the I-beam piece off the front, like the control arm piece off the Ford axle off the front. Like, we have a torch, we have a welder, we can do anything, you know. We'll fabricate that. Halfway through doing that, we found out that it was a cast like knuckle piece, like how they slid it on. It's all cast where the diamond piece is, where the control arm bolts on.
Right.
And I was like, oh no. I was like, this isn't gonna work. Like, I don't understand what I just did. Like, I don't know what to do anymore. This was like first time fabricating stuff like that, and I was like, uh-oh. And so the one kid that was helping me was like, oh no, we'll just customize the bracket, we'll just cut it out. I was like, okay, whatever you say. So we pretty much did that, just cut the brackets up and welded it all on there, and then got it all underneath there and got it all done. And I decided the tires that were on it were an old IROC tire that was just dry rotted to crap and like didn't work. So I took the tires off of my truck and put them on there to go wheeling for a weekend. And I was like, yeah, this will be awesome to do. And we went and ran Rattlesnake again. And I just figured out that I was not a good fabricator at that time. And that nothing was the right way to do it. The coil spring kept falling out of the front because it would flex so far out because it had like no limit straps and the shocks were too long in the front. So every time we pull up on an obstacle, somebody had to watch the one coil spring to make sure it didn't fall out of the front. And I was like, man, I don't know what I'm doing here. And so we finally put limit straps on it. And then I went and wheeled Hanging Tree. Have you ever been to that trail?
No.
It's out in Ephraim.
Okay.
And it's like the whole trail's like a river is what it is. So sometimes the year it's water's running down, sometimes the year it's not. And we get there and there's 2 or 3 of us that are out there wheeling it. Like 3 of us have Cherokees and all that. And then out of nowhere, this guy shows up in this freaking awesome YJ that's all not fully done up, but like leaf sprung and all that stuff. And we're going through the trail and I'm like, that thing's freaking awesome. Like, that seems like that just rock crawls sweet. And it ended up being Tyler Harper that I met there. And that was the first weekend I met him. And I blew a tire halfway through the trail. And back then it had 35s on it. And we were trying the good old dry shampoo, hairspray, trying to get the bead to seat back on. And I couldn't get it on. I was like, all right, screw this. And Tyler's like, well, you can put my, bald Pernelli Jones 38 on there. And I was like, 35, 38? Yeah, they're close enough. That's fine. So we just bolted that bad boy on and, kind of finished the trail out. And after that weekend, I was like, I think it's time to get rid of this, crumpled can of a frame and just actually get into something that's like of an actual frame, not anything that's like a tin can. Because
Right.
I think I had already half ripped the steering box off the front of the Cherokee, broke the rear bumper off of it because we'd gotten stuck in the mud so bad that trying to get it out, we ripped the back bumper off of it. It just like sheared the bolts straight out of it. That thing got put through the ringer. Like,
The unibody.
we'll just say that.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that Cherokee lived its life of like just beating the crap out of it, like beating the crap out of it. We where we go deer hunting up in Strawberry, there's back in the day before they fixed the road, it was just all ruts and kind of like whoops. And I was like, I bet I could get to the end of the road doing 50 miles an hour. And my brother's like, no way. Because they don't do any off-roading or anything like that. Like, nothing like we did. And I think 45 miles an hour is how fast we were going through like these ruts and whoops and in that thing. And mind you, it's downpouring rain and, one quick little slip of the rear and something, and that thing probably could have started barrel rolling down the road. But we didn't care. We were, I'm that young guy, was like, I can drive anything and do anything.
Right. Indestructible.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that Cherokee definitely lived a life of feet. But that's when I started trying to find a Wrangler. And I think when I bought my old green Jeep, that's the Wrangler, the YJ that I had.
Okay.
That thing progressed me so much of wheeling that it scared the shit out of me, in a way of saying. But I searched on KSL for a long time, and Tyler, that's when me and Tyler kind of started becoming really good friends, is he sent me the link to that and said, hey, because I've been talking about his YJ, and it's like, that's pretty cool, love the build. He's like, hey, I found this one, you should go buy this one. And I was like, okay. And it came with Dana 60 front, Dana 60 rear, had a Dana 300 transfer case already, and the trans wasn't in it. The guy said, here, you need this. This is the trans that I bought to put in it, because it used to be a manual, and he was doing an automatic swap in it. And I was like, okay. Like, I think he was asking like $7,000 for it. And it had been on there for a really, really long time. So I was like trying to wheel and deal with him because I only had like $4,000 saved up. And I was like, I'll give you 4 for it. And he's like, no. And I was like, okay, how about $5,000 and a 30-pack of beer? Because when we went and looked at it, the guy was drinking a beer, and I was like, how about this? And he's like, okay, deal. And I was like, okay, so now I got to come up with $1,000, and I got to find someone that's old enough to buy beer, because I wasn't old enough yet. And I was like, what do I do? And so I took one of the kids that I was working with that was 24 at the time. And I was like, all right, we're driving to Salt Lake City, like the far end of Salt Lake. And when we get here, here's like $25. You have to go in and buy a 30-pack of beer. He's like, you're not old enough to drink. And I was like, I know, it's not for me. It's the guy that I'm buying the Jeep from. And he's like, oh, that makes sense. So I swindled the deal for that. And he gave me spare, it's like chromoly shafts for the rear, a spool, like all this stuff. And at that point, I had kind of started fabricating a lot more and kind of understood how to make things work point. But that's where, built the YJ and did a lot more like Moab trips and get more comfortable in it, and seat time and way of saying, as us rock crawlers call it now.
Right.
And that's where I really fell in love with it, of rock crawling more, of to be able to go out in the middle of anywhere and just how beautiful it was, of like scenery you get to see. Like crawl up through this canyon, you pop out on top, and you know you're looking over this entire valley and all that stuff. And that's where I decided from there on out I was going to have a rock crawler or something to do this, because I just loved being able to see the sceneries and stuff like that.
So did you
Absolutely
take
loved
the built YJ? Did you take it out on behind the rocks?
Yeah, actually we did one time.
Okay.
And almost front flipped it off of what was it? You Gotta Be Nuts, or not? You Gotta Be Nuts.
High
go
dive.
Down and then back up. High dive. Yeah,
Yep.
when going down high dive. Yeah, we almost front flipped it off of that once. I was driving, and my fiance at the time was in the passenger seat, and our buddy was in the back seat, and his Jeep had broken, and so he was just in the back seat drinking and everything. Well, I thought that he was putting all his beer cans in the trash bag in the back, but he was just putting them under, like, by his feet. So when we go down that, all of a sudden, all of the beer cans from the back seat right into the front seat, and of course, one's underneath the brake pedal, and you're like trying to smash the brake and smashing a can at the same time. And I'm like, I swear to God, I'm not a drunk. That's not me. Like, I was not drinking. Like, I was like, oh God. So then I, at the bottom of it, after we almost roll and everything, we clean all the beer cans up and put them in the bag. It's like, oh man, that could have been bad.
How was the YJ driving off of White Knuckle?
Not bad. I was still a little nervous. I hated driving down stuff. Like, I loved going up stuff, but I hated going down stuff.
I'm the same way.
Absolutely.
I'd rather drive up than
hated
down.
it. Well, now that I own my buggy, I don't care. I'll drive down, up and down anything, and I think that's all because of you and competing. Like,
You know, and I've never driven a buggy.
really,
Nope.
I thought you would have or have.
Yep, most people do. You know, they wondered, how can you set courses if you've never driven it? And it's just years of watching and understanding the vehicle dynamics.
Yeah, put a cone there and put a cone there, and it'll screw with your brain more than you think it will.
Right.
It's like that's crazy.
But it's the knowing how most of the vehicles will react, you know, where you know, a torque lift here, or, you know, a little side slip, you know, what tires, you know, have a tendency to roll like a sidewall,
scuff sideways. Yeah.
Right. And you know, you may know that in your own vehicle driving, that, oh, hey, when I get into this is what's going to happen. But I've never driven, but I know what's going to happen just from so many years of watching. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it took me quite a while to learn, you know, which way, like, if you got to go through the cones this way, if you turn a loop this way to go through it, and to help the suspension and the tire roll, and all that aspect of things.
Yep.
Yeah. It took me years to figure that out. I'm not saying that I know it for sure, but it took me a while because I was like, oh, you go from this gate straight to that gate, and you know, no.
Most people make that mistake to begin with.
Yeah,
and it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's, you know, the first time I ever competed. Tyler convinced me to go out to old school rock crawl.
Right,
is what it was called back then at Delta.
Yeah, with Craig Stump. Yep.
Yeah. He's like, it's so fun. If you love rock crawling, you'll love this. And I was like, why would I spend money to go beat the crap out of my own vehicle? Like, why does that sound like it's not that fun? And he's like, trust me, just come spot for me. I'll spot for you. Like, we'll have a good time. I'm like, okay. And I had no idea what the rules were. Like, we showed up and was just like, I was like, what do I do? And he's like, you just drive through the cones. That's literally all he told me. You just drive through the cones. So I had never read the rule book. I had never read anything about it of what to do or anything. He's just like, I'll just make it so I can go first, and then you'll go next. And I was like, okay. Like, he's like, just spot me and don't let me hit a cone. And I'm like, all right. Like, that seems kind of like easy to do. Like, I don't understand why you need me to like tell you where not to hit a cone. Because I was like, it's rock crawl, man. Just go for it. Boy, was I wrong. That was Tyler's just an amazing driver,
Right.
especially back then. He'd already been wheeling way more than I had, and so we went through I think it was 2013 at that point when I went out with him and competed, and I learned so much that weekend because he's like, I want to go this way to do this and that way to do that, and I was like, okay, and went through it all. Like, he won. I think he won that weekend, and I took second to last because I didn't understand the time limit part of it, because I just take my time, go through everything. So I timed out a ton, hit a bunch of cones, twisted the rear drive shaft in half, broke 2 stub shafts. We went into the teeter-totter
Right.
with front-wheel drive only, because I was like, well, you got to get through the courses to make points, right? And Tyler's like, yeah. And I was like, back then, that's when they let you do the spotter ride. And Tyler jumps in the passenger seat, and I'm like, are you ready? Are you ready for this? And he's like, yeah, sure. We start going up it, and it's just front-wheel drive. So, of course, it just spins up the metal ramp halfway. And he's like, you don't have your rear drive line, do you? And I'm like, no, we're just in front-wheel drive only. He's like, oh, God. And we back up, and we just get a run at that thing. And if you fall off of it, like, where are you going? Like it can't be that bad. I mean, they have the crane of shame out here. Like, what? So we get over the teeter-totter, and it bangs down really hard. And, we get over there on the row of rocks right there on the other side of the tube, and we're bouncing around. And, back then in the rules then, it was you only had to get 2 tires through the cone. So you could just put the passenger side tires through the cones, or the driver's side tires through the cones. Like, none of this 3 tire. So I hadn't really figured that part out yet. So I just started going through 2 tires and stuff, and we're bouncing through, and we snap the other, short side stub shaft on it. So we're 1-wheel drive, and we get through it, and we end. And he looks at me, and he's like, what are you doing? We're here to have fun, right? Like, I thought that's what we came out here for. Like, so the very first time I competed, I destroyed everything. But I was hooked after that. Like, I was in love with doing it. And so I went home and bought, chromoly 35 spline shafts for the front of it, and moved the seat down to, because I felt like I was really tall when I sat on that thing. So I moved the seat down more, and, thought it was a good idea to put a cutting brake on it.
Right.
In the rear only, with a spool. So, I mean, it works. It's still to this day, that Jeep has that setup, the same cutting brake setup in it, because it's like, it does help when you're in front-wheel drive only. Right. To turn, you can just walk the rear, but it technically not the right way to do it, but it still works.
So what was your first We Rock event?
Cedar City.
Okay.
Is when you guys did it in Cedar City. And I think I almost tried to kill you with a rock. A big-ass boulder, I think. Me and Tyler were stuck on it, and I was in the Jeep, and I was going back and forth, and you had put the cone right on the other side of it, and it was between a big rock that wouldn't move and a big boulder that would move. And I think you were standing down in the bottom outside the course, kind of over it, and I just kept back and forth just beating on it. And you're looking at me like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm competing. My second time. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Just drive through the cones. And I think I had gotten the rock to move, which then made it easier for everyone throughout the whole day. and you're looking at me like, now I got to move this. Like, now you got to make this, like, get the plastic tube out, paint the rocks again. Because it had pretty much changed the whole entire course on that side.
Right.
But I don't think I broke anything that time. But I still didn't do very good. I think I still, out of like 20 cars, I think I got like 14. So I still sucked really bad. Like, really bad. And it took years to get actually up to the podium, because
But you didn't quit.
no, I in my mentality, it was like, you have 10 minutes, you got to get through 4 gates, and you can only hit, in my brain, only hit 3 cones and you're okay. And so I was foot to the floor everywhere, didn't care. That's how you get, that's how I thought you were supposed to compete to get through stuff. And I learned that was the wrong way to do it.
Right.
Badly. And so I competed in that Jeep for all the way up until 2019. 2019 is the last time I competed in it. And it was Goldendale. Goldendale was the last place I comped that Jeep. Because that was the year that me and Tyler did the entire series. We did Donner, because it was Donner the last year you guys went to 2019.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah, because that was the year that we did the whole series.
So you got to wheel Donner. That's awesome.
I did. I loved that place. Absolutely loved it. And I'm hoping one of these days to go back there, but I doubt it, just with everything.
It's so difficult. The property owner has kind of priced it out of our range for us to be able to do the event there. But hopefully someday he'll change his mind.
Yeah, the one place I wish that I would have got to go to was Congress. The one year I think Tyler went, I wasn't able to go, and he's like, "Man, you should have came." Like, and just seeing pictures of that place, it was like, I really wish I was able to go down there to wheel Congress, but I never got to do that one at all. I was kind of bummed about it, because I think the next year is when you guys switched to Baghdad.
Right.
And
well, Congress is one of those that we may have a chance to get back into.
If you do, I'm definitely going.
Awesome.
Hands down.
But I may do it more like a put up or shut up type competition, not a regular We Rock event if we do it. Because for the regular series event, the Baghdad site is pretty phenomenal, especially since they keep expanding it and opening it up and doing more. But for like a 20 or 25 car invitational, like they do in Texas, or like Little Rich does with Trail Hero, Trail Breaker, something like that would be pretty phenomenal.
Oh yeah, I would love to do that. I remember the first time going to Baghdad, and we slept right behind the bar. Like, my trailer was like the back window of the bar, and I was like, this is such a cool event site. Like, I like how it's set up in the little bowl, and all the rocks are on the one face, and you can see everything. Especially how we camped up there this last year. Like, you could sit on the back of the trailer and just like watch the pros, or watch the stock class, or all that stuff. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah, I like event sites like that. Dayton, Tennessee's that way. The big face there with the grass in front of it and everything. That we do a night event in Dayton. It's awesome.
The one place that I wish they still would have done it is Sand Hollow, but then they turned it into that venue right there.
Yeah,
at the golf course.
And the rest of the rocks there, I mean, there wasn't enough variety or enough there to put on a We Rock style rock crawling. I mean, we had a difficult time there with the 2 times that we did it there before they turned it into the musical, arena area. just trying to
Yeah.
pick out other lines that weren't always the same,
Yeah. Because what, two or three times you guys did it there?
Yeah, I think two. Yeah.
Two. Yeah. Because me and Tyler both competed there both times you guys did it. And it was fun. It was cool because same thing. You sit in the grass and you can 360 all the way around.
Yeah.
You can see everything. But yeah, it's just not a lot of real estate to change it up so much.
Right. That's why it worked for Rich when he did the super crawl, where it was more of a rock race, 1-2 course type thing.
Yeah, especially on the that other side that they did it on.
Right.
There's some cool stuff over there, but same thing. I think if they tried to do it again over there, it'd be you only have so much space to change things up. Like the 2-day event that they did there, not to say a lot of it was the same, but it kind of intertwined with each other, where some stuff was close to what you did the day before, kind of.
Right.
Like instead of going across the face from left to right, you went from, right all the way to the left, which it made it different, yeah, but at the same time, it was like the cones were close to about the same area.
Right.
And everything, but still fun. I loved wheeling that because you're like, all right, we're done wheeling. Who wants to go to dinner at the resort? Just walk across the parking lot.
Exactly. That was nice. That especially with the condos, and if you had one of the condos, being able to use the pools and stuff like that, it was pretty good.
Oh yeah, it was really good. I like that.
So, out of the event sites that you've wheeled, which is the one that you hate the most, and then the site that you like the most?
I hate Cedar City.
Oh,
I know
really?
I live like 30 minutes from it, but I have this vendetta with Cedar City where I cannot get past third place, no matter what I do.
Or what area we use.
No matter what, it's third place. Like when I did Supercrawl, I think I took fourth there, and every single wee rock I have taken third there. Like, I don't know. I love that place a lot and all that because that's,
Yeah, it's a classic. It's
awesome.
A classic rock crawling site.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I would say my top favorite. I have a couple favorites, but my very top favorite, it was Texas. When we went down to Texas last year,
To Mason, yes.
I was in love. The rocks there was, amazing. And that's the first place I comped my buggy at. And I fell in love. I want to go back so bad, and I was supposed to go to the shootout, Top Gun shootout last year, but just with everything that kind of happened last year, I didn't get a chance to, and
Right.
all that. And then, but we're definitely going to make a trip back there for sure. Like it's going to happen. Even if I just go wheel for a week or something there, like I'll make it back. And then I loved Vernal. Vernal is like something about that place I loved there. Just the rocks remind me of Cedar City, but it also has the same effect of like Sand Hollow. Like they kind of have a mix of both to me is how they seem.
Okay.
I love that place. I love competing there.
Vernal is one of those. It's a love-hate relationship for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the rock formations, but getting the event site prepared and dealing with the state trust lands and their requirements and the permitting and everything that you have to do, and then being able they say, oh, you can't grade the road, you can't change the grade. It's like, and how the hell are we supposed to get all these vehicles in here? So may fudge a little bit here and there, and it's just they don't make it easy. But that's from the promoter side, That's not the drivers don't know that stuff. So
I would say I hated the road to get up there. I think with my new fifth wheel, I don't think I would pull it up that road. Like it's not that bad of a road, but it was like
you
like
really
you're
have
already
to,
rock crawling.
yeah, you really have to pay attention and pull. If it's really a low trailer, you're going to be in trouble because there's
Yeah,
just enough erosion and areas where you have to, you have to pick your way up. You just can't drive straight up.
yeah. Like Cedar City, you can just pull right in all the way up the graded road and
Yes.
pop off the side, and the same thing with Rangeley. That road wasn't bad at all to get up all the way up in there.
Right.
Like, so yeah, I would say only downfall would be Vernal would be the road, but I like the rocks out there. It's cool stuff out there.
And Rangeley, they haven't let us use the good stuff. We're always on that. They put us on that little shitty side.
Yeah.
Because of the archaeological studies that they had going on. And even though we're on the rock, not down on the soft soils, but somebody found an arrowhead or something, so everybody freaked out.
I remember that, though, right before the last time that you guys were there, right before we had gotten there, and it was like, oh, the event site had changed. We're moving over here now.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, shit. Like, because I think I remember you saying that you almost canceled it. Like, you're like, it's almost not worth it. And I'm glad you still put it on because it was actually a really fun event.
Okay.
Like, that event was really, really fun.
But I was so disgusted when I got there, and they said, "Oh no, you can only use up to this point." And
I didn't drive that time. I was actually just spotting.
Okay.
Both times we've been there, I've actually never wheeled. I've actually just spotted for both cars, both times I've been there. So I don't really know how the rocks are there. So
to me, we have to be really creative to make things difficult, and it's more about course layout than it is than the terrain itself. And that's I like when you have difficult terrain, and you don't have to use the hardest stuff there, and then try to figure out how to make it actually hard. That's the thing with Rangeley is that it's the terrain. The terrain isn't difficult unless the cone placement is just right.
Yeah, in Jesse's podcast, I remember him saying like, in some of the cones, it was like, you just drive from this cone to that cone, and it's super easy. But once you got on the terrain, the cars would slough, bulge, unloading, something weird. And so it's like, when we walked the courses, it was like, this is nothing. This doesn't look bad at all. Like, we should be able to come out of this, everyone tied in first place when we get to the end of the day. And then halfway through the day, it was like, oh my God, what are we doing? This didn't work.
Yeah.
Why is the car doing that? Holy crap. This is more technical than we thought it was going to be. And, it gets you always have your first plan, then you have your second plan, then you throw everything out of the window, and you just chuck everything in the sink, and something happens, and it all unfolds okay. Like, that's what I've learned of how to compete. Like, that's how my plans go, of like walking courses, and, okay, I want to do this, and I want to put the tire here, and I want to do this. If that doesn't work, then this is plan B. And then at that point, plan 3 is tell me where to go where I won't run you over and I won't run a cone over, and we'll be okay. And I mean, I want to say Texas, one of the courses there, we looked at it, and then Unlimited's run through it and everything, and then we started going through it in ProTrail, and I was like, nothing looks the same. Like, rocks are all moved, just nothing where you thought you were going to go is there in the same place. And I was like, uh-oh. And they're like, do you want to walk the course? And I was like, no. And they're like, are you sure? I was like, let's just go, because if I make a plan, it's not going to stay because all the rocks move. So I'd rather just get the car on it and see how it feels, and go from there. Like, adjust from there.
Hip, yeah.
Yeah, and it ended up working okay because we made it through the course with no problems. But it was still like, wow, nothing stays the same.
Nope. So what's What's in the future for you, Logan?
So, for me, I want to, I with my old marriage and stuff, and divorce, and then now into my new fiance and stuff. She has 2 kids already and everything. The oldest one is 11. Um, he's just barely started driving the car. We went out yesterday, and he got in the driver's seat of it and is going to start learning how to drive that car. I'm gonna build a new car. Got on the list. I've already talked to James Tracy about a car and everything, so he's gonna be building me a chassis probably end of the year, and I'm gonna build that one. Try and do me compete in ProTrail and get him to be in pretty much
Sportsman.
just the sportsman's class for now.
Okay.
But keep that car around. I really like that car. When I built it, it's the very first Jesse Haynes trail chassis, and it just amazes me how stable that car is and how well it works. And I didn't build that car to compete in, like, whatsoever. Like, after I had drove for Neazumi Suda in the orange car for Supercrawl and everything, after that year, I didn't really want to compete anymore. I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, yeah, it's fun, but I kind of felt like I got burned out on doing it. And so I was like, I don't want to compete at all. I just want to build a car, like a buggy, and I want to go wheel with all the, like, top guys, McKinley and, Caliph and Nate Christensen and, like, all that. I just want to go do all that cool stuff. Like, that's what I want to do. And, living in Southern Utah, we get to kind of get all that cool stuff. And I didn't want to compete the car at all. And then I built it, and that seems like all I've ever done in that car now. But I kind of fell back in love with doing it, and seeing all the kids compete, it made me want to push him to, like, hey, like, he's asked me a ton of times, can I drive the car? And, he's really good friends with Coulter Brassanini. He lives kind of down the street from him when he's at his dad's house. And so I was like, hey, let's I'll build me a new car and you can drive this one. So yeah, I think in the future, going to have 2 cars to run, and, just keep pushing and, have fun while doing it. It's pretty much all I want to do is have, family around that loves doing it. My fiance Leah, she loves going wheeling and everything, and her 2 kids like doing it. And so I'm like, okay, how about I build me a car. The 2 boys can drive that one, and you can ride with me with our baby. And when he gets old enough to be, where she doesn't have to get out and walk with him, it's like, whichever one I don't extremely love the most, I'll sell it and build a 3-seat car, so that then the baby can chill in the back and we can just go wheeling and all that. So that's kind of the future for us, and try and just have fun while doing it.
Excellent. And your business is doing good?
Yeah, we're super busy. And, that's this year. I wanted to do a lot more trips and get out to the East Coast a little bit, but with how busy we've been, I just haven't had the time to actually, like, go anywhere. And that's where I was like, a couple of the sponsors that jumped on this year, I told them, I was like, I'm gonna hit all the close ones and do all those ones, and we're in LCQ this year for Trail Hero, so we're gonna try and get into Trail Breaker again, and just kind of do that, but just focus on my business and grow it more, so it's to the point where I can leave for a week and not have to worry about, or the guys have work, is is the shop running okay? Is everything taken care of? Because for me, it's like I really focus on all that stuff because it's not just my livelihood that I have to worry about. I got 4 guys here,
Right.
or three guys here that,
That
they
depend on
have
it.
families. Yeah, they have families to feed. They have plans if they want to do fun stuff, so I have to look at the big picture of all that and everything. And, last year kind of opened me up a lot to be able to see that sort of stuff of, you can't take anything for granted, and you gotta, be there for family and everything else, but also, make sure how you make a living is also taken care of as well.
So any words of wisdom for somebody listening to this that wants to follow the path?
I would say find something cheap to buy at first and get out and have fun and doing it, and just follow your gut and just have fun while doing it. Don't get mad. If you're going to go and compete, don't get mad. It's not worth it. You're just there to have fun, and if something doesn't go your way, it doesn't go your way. There's no sense of yelling at people or judges or any of that, because you're there to have fun, and that's all that matters. Like, if you're not having fun,
don't do it.
Don't do it at all. And that's where I've learned that over the few years of I just want to have
watching others.
Yeah, I enjoy doing this, and I think honestly that's where when that year, because I did double duty. I spotted for We Rock and I drove it for Supercrawl, and it was just that was the year I was kind of going through my divorce, and I was kind of angry at that time, and so I would always yell at my spotter, and come to find out that's not really how it's supposed to work. If you're nice to them, they're nice to you. Put it that way.
Right. You really are in their hands. The spotter can make or break you.
Yeah, and I've learned that a lot, competing in the pro side of everything, because you could be completely on your side doing something, and it's all in their hands of where to tell you, because they'll start to notice a car unloading before you do. Like, yeah, you can kind of feel it in the seat, but they'll be able to watch the car start to move a little bit before you feel it, and be able to tell you what's going to happen.
Right.
On a good spotter, be able to look at the car and say, that's going to drive underneath yourself, or that's going to get light. And so, you definitely have your life's kind of in their hands. Like, hey, don't do that. You're going to roll off of that. Like, oops.
Exactly.
So, that's kind of, do you remember Cedar City, We Rock? I had drove the Suda's car, and you had put the cones, we had to come down and turn sharp right and drop down the hill.
Yep.
And I front flipped off of that. I made it, but I front flipped off of it, and I give props to my spotter at that time. He said, if you can get the car to rock, I think you can get it to fall into the hole and be able to drive out of it. And so that's kind of what the plan we were doing, but it ended up like the whole ass of the car just boop. And then I was like, oh gosh, and just stood in the throttle, which then, and then landed on all 4, and then we drove out. And I was like, that rung my bell a little bit, but we took 5th that weekend because, once again, I can't get above that 3rd place position. So
it's Cedar City.
Yeah, it's Cedar City.
Well, Logan, I want to say thank you so much for doing the interview and spending this time and letting us know more about you and what makes you tick. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate it too. I had a lot of fun doing it. So.
And we'll see you hopefully by the end of the year. I don't get to all the events anymore. Taking care of my my parents has been an experience, and it's taking up a a lot of that time, but luckily Jake and Caleb are doing a great job running We Rock, so that
really,
it affords us the time to be able to take care of the parents.
oh yeah, they do an amazing job. Are you going to be able to make it to nationals?
That's the plan, but we have to wait to see how things are health wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be at nationals.
Great.
I'll never miss that one. That one's a fun one to go to.
Yeah. That stuff there in New Mexico is big.
Yeah. I think we learned that last year. So.
All right. I appreciate it. And you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.